under fading skies. Tattered flags waving dreams in our eyes. The crowds roar like a storm on the wind. We're the underdogs fighting again.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. It is Stateside Footy. God damn it, we're a European semifinalist, gentlemen. God damn it,
European finalists. European finalists.
Finalists. That's what I meant. God damn it! You know what? I knew I was gonna. I knew I was gonna.
God damn it! Start again. Roll tape. God
Roll it.
damn it.
No. Yes, we are European finalists, and so I reached out to the guys over at Spurs Die Hard. TTID. Gentlemen, good morning. I hope you guys are doing well. How are you doing today, Adrian?
Fine. I suppose everyone's still buzzing, and a lot of the fan base should have recovered from their exertions of that night, you know what I mean? Whichever way they went. Yeah, so, no. I mean, like, looking forward to the final 13 days. I mean, this was you always, it's always been a like white knuckle run following Spurs, a roller coaster ride, and that intensity is only going to increase the nearer we get to the game. And you know what's going to happen in the media. You think the hype surrounding Bodo Glimt and then being confident they're going to turn around 2 goals, blah, 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 and all that. You wait till the Man United psychological warfare team get their exit going, you know what I mean? Because you know what's going to happen in the media now. There's going to be so much of it. And it does put so much pressure on the players, so if they listen to that stuff,
Drew, last night I was on your guys' show, and it just brought back that feeling again, right? I try to kind of remove emotion from it, but I have absolutely no desire to remove it, because that being said, it's like, this doesn't necessarily happen as a Spurs fan, right? Like, it just, 2019 was fantastic. Like, everybody remembers the second half against Ajax in the second leg of that semifinal. Absolutely fantastic. But once Dom Solanke hit that goal in Bodo, I absolutely went batshit crazy. As a matter of fact, I was leaving work, and there was like 20 people walking right next to me as we were heading to the security gate. And all of a sudden, I went absolutely batshit crazy, because at that point, it's over. Like, there was no
the point of no return.
That's exactly right. And I just went absolutely crazy, and 20 people's heads went, what? And I was just like, dude, we're going to Bilbao. We're going to Bilbao. And they're like, they had absolutely no idea what the hell was going on, Drew. Let me ask you a question. Once that happened, what was your first immediate reaction?
I was on the watch along with Dave, the Irish Hotspur, because Jack was over in London actually watching it in the Bricklayers. To be honest with you, Steve, it was actually quite a sentimental moment for me. I mean, I mentioned it on the stream. This is going to be the third one in my lifetime. So the first one being obviously early 80s when I was a baby, and I don't obviously remember much of that because I was born in 79, so it just wasn't really on my radar. And then obviously 2019, and now this one. And this one, unfortunately, is I'm going to be doing this solo because the other two I did with my parents, and unfortunately they're not around, and they were big Spurs supporters. So it's bittersweet for me. I got a little bit emotional, I have to say. But just I'm quite proud of this team. I mean, they've been through so much this season. And to see what we perceive to be, I guess, 9/11ths of our starting 11, maybe, or at least, the squad that sort of started off the Postecoglou era so bright, are the ones that are sort of showing up and doing the business at the business end of the season, I guess it is. It's been a shame that the Premier League has been such a crapshoot. But I'm not, it is what it is now. I can't be worried about that. We've got all the eggs in the basket. The basket's now in Bilbao. So, yeah, just desperately hoping we get a result and we play well. And I'm pretty confident we will, but I'm sure we'll get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I want to thank everybody who's already in the chat room. We got Henry Chittenbum. We have the Tottenham Ranger, which I absolutely love because we could always use far more Rangers in this world. And then we have Zedai, and Zedai says this one feels different, and I have to agree. What's funny about this is during the game I was actually tuned into Derma and their watch along. I switched between a couple different watch alongs. I was watching you and Dave, and then I was flipping back and forth. And the interesting thing was he said that this one is better than the 2019 Champions League run. And at first when he said it, I was kind of like, that's the Champions League, right? But then, what's funny is it stayed with me and I was thinking about it and I was like, yeah, you might be right, because in 2019, I think we're just happy to be there. It was their first Champions League final. And after the emotion of the second leg, when everybody was celebrating, and if you remember, Maurizio Pochettino was on his knees, and they were just kind of feeling the moment of being able to come back and advance. And I think that Liverpool, because of the experience that Liverpool had in those settings, I don't think they were actually faced for that final, which was at that time our first, essentially our first Champions League final. And I think maybe we were just happy just to kind of be involved in that dance. This time around, it just hits differently. Maybe it's because it's the Europa League. Maybe it's not the Champions League, or maybe it's because the season has been absolute dog shit. From the, essentially talk about the inconsistencies when we started the season. Then we had the injury crisis, and then when players came back, the form just didn't hit the ground running. And so it's been essentially, let's just keep it real. It's been a shit show. But that being said, we got to within 90 minutes of Wembley in the League Cup, and now all of a sudden you go through everything that we've been through, and they've taken advantage of this Europa League. And it doesn't seem like we're just happy to be there. It doesn't seem like we're taking advantage of weaker opposition. It feels like we're actually fighting for this one. And I think that's why it feels different to me. I'm just kind of curious, Drew. Am I wrong to think that? You're on mute, bud.
Yeah, there's an argument. It's hard to say. I mean, I have trouble remembering last week, if I'm perfectly honest with you. I think there might be a little bit of recency bias. But yeah, I mean, there's certainly something to be said. And maybe, again, it goes back to the season that we've had. And it's almost unbelievable to think that, if you look at if you gave an alien the Premier League table and showed him it and said, who do you think's in the, there are two teams from this lot that are in a final, I don't think they'd be picking us or them. So yeah, it is a case. It is very much like, I can't believe this is quite happening. And there is maybe a little bit of a them and us mentality as well about it. I feel like there was certainly a bit more of a togetherness then than I feel like there is now, because I'm still getting vibes that there are people that will, through gritted teeth and very begrudgingly, give this guy his dues if we do lift the trophy. And this is people that I've heard say, even as early as 3-4 weeks ago, if we get this, if we get over the line, all is forgiven, all is forgiven. And the closer we get, it seems to be more begrudging. And I just don't know. I don't like it. It baffles me. It baffles me. But we won't go on about negative things. I'm just looking forward to it. I wish it was closer. I wish it was, it's a shame. It's a shame that we've got to have 2 games before it, but then also, I enjoy, regardless of how they play, I enjoy watching my team play football. I just had news, or I'm just looking. It looks like hopeful that Son's going to get some minutes tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure we'll probably get into team news and things like that. But that's promising, because I think we touched on it yesterday. I don't really want any. Romance and kind of, I don't do it just for the sake of it. But if that guy is chomping a bit and ready to go, and he's got a real solid 20-30 minutes in his legs, then he's a nice addition to bring on, against Man United in the final, provided he is up to the task. Because, as I say, I don't want any romance and just playing players for the sake of it, just to, just because it's a final and it's, just because they've been here for 10 years. So be warned, Ben Davies.
Well, to contrast what you said about the Champions League final and this, the biggest difference to me, I mean, all right, we clawed our way to that Champions final. Remember, we had Winks and Sissoko in midfield, right? And Morat sit on the bench, which was I thought that was criminal.
Winks, by the way, Winks played unbelievably well.
Yeah, we were the better team. Yeah. We were the better team on the day. But, and you take that contrast, and the difference between back then and here among the fan bases, that there was less belief back against that Champions League that we were going to win that final. Every man and his dog was back in Liverpool to win the game, and they won it, right? Whereas coming into this final, there's more belief amongst the fan base that we're going to win it, because we've beaten Man United 3 times already this season.
Correct.
And like I said earlier, if we beat them again, we get to keep them, right? So, So, and I think that is the positive thing. There is actually belief we can do this, and we can do this playing different styles of football now. But we don't know how Rangers going to approach this game, right? But this is why I think, come the final, I think it'll be first 20 minutes will be very cagey. Sides feel itself out. Could be totally wrong though. It could be 4 goals in the first 20 minutes. So,
yeah. Hey, by the way, quickly, Adrian, Derma is here in the chat, and he's saying big up everyone here in THFC TWD. Anyone going to the game tomorrow, let him know, because he is actually at the lane, and he's doing some good stuff right there. He's doing some good video stuff right there. So yeah, if you guys want to hang out.
There's a few people going tomorrow, because Jack Konecki from Irish Hotspurs in town. Dave's come over from Ireland as well. So, if anyone's at the game, I wish I could be there. That still sounds like a blast. I wish I was still in England.
I'm going. I'm fortunate enough to be a season ticket holder. I'm going to the game. And
you should shoot him a WhatsApp and see.
Yeah. What will be interesting, though, now we're in the final, to see what reception the players get when they come out.
Oh, I would probably assume that they're going to get
a lift the roof. I would have thought we would.
I would hope so. I would like to think for the next couple of weeks, at least until the final, and then the outcome of the final, it's just going to be a case of all is forgiven. Let's just give these guys a rousing celebration, or a rousing introduction today. Go at Aston Villa, get minutes in legs on the Friday prior, make sure everyone's as fresh and as ready as they can be as far as match fitness, and let's go and turn this lot over, isn't it?
We're gonna get into these next 2 games in just a second, because I do have a question regarding that. But Tottenham Ranger again. Love the Tottenham Ranger. He says Ange has Amorim on a leash, and I love that comment, by the way, Ranger. Because I think you're right. One of the things that hits differently about this is 2 things, really. Number one, we are clearly better than the second-tier European opposition, and I think that Europa League run kind of proves it. When you looked at the league phase, that kind of manifested itself out against the Karabags and the Ferencvaroses and AZ Alkmaar of the world. And again, no disrespect to those squads, but we're a Premier League side. We have a little bit more quality than the AZ Alkmaars of the world, and I think this run kind of backs that up. But the other thing is that in all of this, when it comes to the season and all of the disappointment of this season, the injuries, regardless, it was clear this run showed me that not only do these players actually have heart, and by the way, I've questioned this team's heart essentially from, I don't know, the beginning of the season. I was wondering if this team actually cared. Do they have the ability to fight? Can they knuckle down and dig out a win when they absolutely needed one? And I think this European run definitely proves that. But it also proves that they're behind this manager 100%. Because if this team, like for instance, I'll give you a good example, right? When Erik ten Hag was with Manchester United, even in some of those European matches and some of those Premier League teams, they clearly did not give a shit about whether they won or lost. And there was nothing that Erik ten Hag could do to motivate that team or get them to believe in himself. And we saw those kind of results, right? And there was times this season with Tottenham Hotspur where I felt that way. Whether or not I was questioning whether or not they were behind the manager. I was questioning whether they had heart. Did they actually give a shit, right? That's the baseline thing I look for in a player. Like, you're a professional footballer. Do you actually give a shit about your profession? Because if you did, you would probably go out there and hustle. But that being said, this European run proves that without a doubt. But also, I think that when it pertains to this final, because Tottenham has beaten Manchester United 4 in a row, they have been down this road a few times, right? There's going to be a confidence with this team coming into it. Like, I know Jose last night said that Manchester United has the advantage because they've already played in Bilbao. I don't think that's going to play into it at all. I don't think it's going to play into it. So maybe they might not have nerves coming into it, although I probably think they would. But that being said, it's like, we have the combination to their safe. We know exactly how they're going to line up, what they're going to try to do. And we also have a back four that's going to be capable of shutting them down. Because listen, man, say what you will, outside of Bruno Fernandes, I don't think their quality really is all that great. I think our quality is better. On the day, I think our quality is going to be a lot better. And due to the fact that we know how to play them, we know exactly how they're going to line up, set up. I think Tottenham's going to come into that one expecting to win. I don't think it's an issue of can they. I think there's going to be an expectation that they're going to be able to do this. Adrian, am I wrong?
No, they will because they've beaten them 3 times before. If it was back in the day under Fergie, when they were winning things, you'd be more concerned. You think, oh, we're going to have to, get a set piece, score a goal, and defend it like mad. A bit like the 2008 against Chelsea when we won it. Chelsea was a better team, but Woodgate popped up with a header, didn't he? So, it's not going to be like that. You got 2 sides poor this season, both done well to get through to this final, and it'll be a close fought contest. I think we'll nick it by the odd goal. I had faith in this competition. I had £10 on at 9-2. So I might win 45 quid or whatever it is. But no, I just think this is its year. I could. Well, I told you before, didn't I? Ange Postecoglou, where I felt like if you're into omens, how he ends up being manager of our club. So
right.
Yeah. Sometimes you just think, well, this is our time, and you might as well be positive, because if you want to be negative going into the game, then you're just going to have the same amount or same feeling of disappointment if we were to lose it. So be positive. We want positive vibes around the club. We don't want negative vibes. Back in 81 and that there was a complete buzz around the whole area and everything's like that. It was it's infectious. And even the staff at the old ground was saying there's just a buzz about this place. Yeah. And you and it was a year and a one, and all the omens were blinking. that way. 1901, 1921, 1951, 1961, 1971, 1981. All the beginnings of a decade when we simply won a trophy. And no, I think we got this. I'm quietly confident. I should be don't get me wrong, I should be as nervous as the next fan sitting through the 90 minutes, because that's the thrill of supporting a team, and the jeopardy is if you lose, or fear of losing. But nah. I think we got this, but we'll all be nervous wrecks. We'll all be doing what we can to try and keep us calm, whether it's alcohol or I don't know, Valium.
Yeah, Drew, I don't know, man. Like, when I look at this final, I don't really have a worry at all about Manchester United. And like, listen, man, I know that their run to the final was laced with question marks. The convenient red cards that helped bail them out. Yeah, I'm looking at that second leg against Olympique Lyon, which was an absolute shit show. That unfortunately should never have happened. I don't know, man. I look at their run, and I don't know, man. Like, I know this is going to be, I know this thing is going to sound incredibly juvenile, but I think that they were helped out a little bit. And I'm not Mr. conspiracy theory guy, but that being said, I don't know, man. A part of me just thinks that the powers that be that kind of wanted an all England final in this one.
Yeah, I think.
Go on, Adrian.
All I was going to say, I think fans would have preferred to play Man United than Bilbao in their own stadium.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. Yeah, for sure.
I just feel like it's a bit of a weird, like, flip reverse, because if you look, like you've just alluded to, if you look at the runs, especially the last couple of games, we've been the convincing team that over the course of the quarterfinal of the semi-final have basically turned up, done our job, not really put the frighteners up us too much, not like we thought they were going to. I mean, let's face it, when we got Frankfurt in the quarterfinal, it was, oh, well, they're the best team, we're going to come up short, but oh, well, we had a nice run. And then we kind of put them to bed, and everyone was like, well, Buddha, well, we have to play them at home first, so they're just going to do us in the second leg. And that seemed to be, from what I could tell, that seemed to be the blanket thought. Other than obviously happy clappers and super positive Spurs fans, it seemed to be like, oh, well, and I can't believe that. Like, the team that has, with all due respect to Buddha, because I think they're a fantastic outfit, but the team that, all right, they've won their league 4 out of the last 6 years, but this is the Norwegian league.
Don't sleep on those Norwegians, man. Don't.
I'm not. I'm looking at the two teams, and I'm going, well, we could fit. You can fit the entire town of Buddha into our stadium. Like, come on, Can we get real? Like, I get it. Maybe this season has just been so bad that it's just put the frighteners up everybody, but usually most of the time you put those two on a bit of paper and show it to somebody, they're like, well, yeah, probably the Premier League outfit is going to do it. So maybe it's just because it's Tottenham. I don't know. But we did Frankfurt. We put them to bed. We did a masterful display. I mean, obviously, the ricochet and the goal that we conceded in the home leg, again, put the frighteners up everybody. But I thought it was a well-oiled machine that looked like it had been there for a while and doing his thing and just putting these guys away. Whereas you look at Manchester United, to your point, absolute shit show against Lyon. And against Bilbao, I mean, Bilbao in the home leg, they were down to 10 men after about 35 minutes.
Yeah, right.
So you can't, could anything more go in their favour? Like, I don't know. It just, like, if you do any other season, if you'd have shown me those two things and you'd have shown that being us getting to the final, almost like fudging our way to it, as opposed to the other team that are just like taking care of business. I don't know. I just think we've just gone about our job. And again, I'm talking in the context of the Europa League, right? Sure. I completely understand, and I'm not negating the fact that we have, and I have to reiterate, absolutely terrible in the league. This is, but this conversation isn't about that. We're talking about Spurs. We're talking about the Europa League. So in the confines of this competition, I just think we've been as close to perfect in the last 2 rounds as I think you could expect a Spurs team to be. And that's especially in the last game without James Maddison and without Bergvall, who I was told are the only 2 players in our team that can create anything. So, again, now we're going to lose because we absolutely have no creativity other than those 2 players, which I just find absolutely, it beggars belief sometimes. But, that's the narrative that some people want to have. So,
yeah, the interesting thing, though, is that I go back to the start of the season, and I was looking at the prognosticators, those guys in Vegas that set the odds. And there were 2 teams that had the best odds of getting to the final, and that was Tottenham Hotspur and Manchester United. And sure enough, the odds of those 2 teams reaching a final played itself out. But again, I look at this road. I look at this road from Manchester United. And by the way, David Clark, you're absolutely right. And I'm not necessarily calling them out. But that being said, when I look at their round of 16 all the way to the final, man, it was littered with exceptionally convenient red cards that allowed them to get back into the game. Now, again, I'm not calling it conspiracy. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying, man, the proof is in the pudding. All of a sudden, they get bailed out with timely red cards, and especially in that first leg against Bilbao, again, questionable cards that change the entire fortune of those games.
If anything, Steve, it just shows the gross inconsistency of the officials across the board. Really, because things that have been red cards in some games would not have been red cards in others. And I just think there needs to be more of a standardized effort in the official side of the game. And that's not the officials' fault because, they seem to be overruled and undermined week after week. So I just think it's unfortunate. Yeah. And it just so happens that it is Manchester United that seem to be on the receiving end of some, and there's a couple of decisions were fair enough, but there's a couple you do have to go, what? And because it's Manchester United and because everyone loves a bit of a conspiracy, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Sort of throw it out there. But yeah, I just think, you see it in the Premier League week on week. You've got professional footballers that have been doing this for, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And then you've got a referee running around that did referee school a couple of years ago and all of a sudden has been fast tracked. And some of these guys, you've never seen it. Yeah, you've never seen them before. And it's all well and good. I'm not trying to disrespect officials. Some of them, 150, 200, 400 games, 500 games. It's fantastic. But some of these guys, you've put them in a position where they're being undermined, like I say, and overruled by players because they're just, I see some of them out there and they look like deers in headlights. And then you see others that look like they've got the whistle perpetually stuck to their lip.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's just like they want to make a name for themselves. It's nuts. But yeah, sorry, I digress. That's kind of a different tangent.
No, but you're absolutely right because we're seeing younger and younger refs, especially in the Premier League, right, where they go to referee school. Maybe they start off in the non-league, playing in refereeing the National League, and they'll move up to League One, and their rating is so good that they get bumped up to the Premier League without actually having that experience. You're 100% right. But and again, I don't necessarily mean to hit negatively, but that being said, when you see Manchester United being gifted all these convenient red cards that killed momentum for their opposition, it makes me wonder about the final. What happens if Bentancur goes in for a tackle? Maybe it might be a little rough, but that being said, it's going to call into question about whether or not there's going to be a quick hook for Tottenham players trying to make a challenge.
I haven't even looked to see. They probably haven't announced the officials for the game yet, or who's going to be the VAR assistants or the fourth officials or whatever.
You're
going to get hype around that, and then it'll be, this referee refereed Man United back here or Spurs back here, blah blah blah, and this happened or that happened. Do you know what I mean? So he favours Spurs or he favours Man United. That'll be amongst all the other hype that you get surrounding this game as it builds up to the final, and it's going to get mental, right? It will, and I'm trying to compare that hype with previous hype. especially around Bodo Glint, who did well. They've done fantastically well. You know,
Sure.
good luck to them. Like, you know, hope our fans went and bought loads of stuff out of their club shop or whatever. But like we did with Marine and other teams in the cup and things like that. But when you look at it, I was trying to compare, take a balanced perspective on the hype, and like I can remember us playing lesser teams this season. All right, it wasn't a semi-final. I don't know if you get two boxes going to fight, they're going to hype that fight up to sell tickets, right? You didn't have a problem with tickets in this semi-final at home or away. They were both sellouts. But I can remember us playing big name teams in Europe in earlier rounds of a competition, European competition, and you didn't have this hype. You didn't have it. It's as if the media wanted to build this up, you know, out of all proportion. I've always said that there's a large section of the media that are very anti-Spurs and have been that way. It's been that way. So I'm a biased Spurs fan, I'll admit that, right? So that's the hype. But yeah, with the officials and the red cards and that,
I feel like, Adrian, just quickly, I feel like if you're, and I think it's just become less and less. I feel like if you're a journalist, you have a bit of an obligation to be somewhat impartial. I mean, I know you've all got teams, I get it, but you're supposed to be writing balanced views. And when you've got the likes of fucking Alex Crooks, who, as I mentioned yesterday, perpetually looks like he's always getting out of bed. I just can't stand the guy. He's so one-sided against. He's got such an agenda when it comes to Tottenham. And there's a couple of them out there as well. And the Premier League and the old league have been biased against Spurs. We were made to play on a dodgy pitch when Wembley's pitch weren't properly. We had to go and play Blackburn away in that League Cup, right? We got stitched up for 12 points, 750 grand, and kicked out the FA Cup when Sugar come in and said, look, there's a discrepancy here. Basically, what happened, 3 of our players, Clive Allen, Mitchell Thomas, someone else, were all given bungs as bonuses, but it wasn't criminal offence because Spurs declared that money through their books. But when it got through to the FA, they said this was out of order. They did us 12 points, 750 grand, right? Kicked us out of the FA Cup. Sugar took them to tribunal, won the case. We got reinstated in the FA Cup. We got the 12 points back, but they doubled the fine, which was enormous back then, 1.5 million to 1.5 million. Yeah. Now, when I compare it with the likes of West Ham and Arsenal, what sticks in my craw is West Ham, oh, well, they supplied free players for the World Cup, you know. So when Javier Mascherano and Carlos Tevez, was found out they were ringers, and at the end of the season, because of all this part ownership stuff, West Ham got away with just giving Sheffield United £1 million because they were relegated. That was it, right? So West Ham got off scot-free. Oh, we can't do it. Oh, West Ham, we can't do it. And West Ham and Ron Greenwood, very close with the FA. Always have been close with the FA at all levels and all that. Arsenal, the same. When they got John Jensen from Bromley, George Graham got a 6-figure sum, right, in his bank account. He was later found to have 600 odd grand's worth undeclared income. Where was this money? Oh, it's in the Channel Islands bank account. How convenient. And the agent then, Rennie Hall, as well. So, and the figure that went for Arsenal's books was different. And in the end, George Graham was sacked at Arsenal, but he wasn't the one who transferred money to himself. Yeah. And it just so happened that nothing more, no points deductions, no nothing for Arsenal, right? But David Dean at Arsenal was chairman at Arsenal, vice chairman at Arsenal, and he so happened to be vice chairman of the FA at the same time, right? So it stunk. And as much as they tried to get it, it got swept under the carpet. If that had been Spurs, recently they got done 60 grand for not using a proper registered agent for that centre-back deal. Was it from Southampton? Was it Davenport? Was it Davenport? Callum Davenport.
Yeah.
And and they got fined 60 grand for that. And that was it.
Was that the Sky Andrews crap? Was it Sky Andrews or was that somebody else? But yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. I guess now that you keep pointing it out, I guess I don't mean to be a salty fan, but it does feel like Spurs get stitched up a little bit, right?
Oh, Clara Corella. Yeah. Oh, it was a genuine mistake. Hang about, you know, if you accidentally run some over and it's manslaughter, you might not have intended to do it, but you're still going down, right? So, but like they got away with it, and like so now I'm with bated breath. We're all waiting because we'll all do shows on Man City's charges, won't we, end of the season, because they know the result.
It's going to be it's going to be awesome.
So and then you've got Chelsea haven't been charged yet because it's really opened up a can of worms, right? So and we'll see, because my concern with things like this is that the Premier League is embarrassed by all this. They really ideally would like to sweep it under the carpet because it makes the game look bad under their watch. Sure. And people at the Premier League should lose their jobs for this, right? And they've spent about 40 million on court cases, so they should definitely lose their jobs for this. But
absolutely. Before we continue, go ahead and head over to Spurs Diehards TTID and hit your like and subscribe button. But while you're out there liking, subscribing, make sure you like and subscribe to Stateside Footy. Every weekend we have our Saturday morning Spurs conversation, and we have a lot of good content here on Stateside Footy, including tonight we have the MLS live stream. Columbus will be traveling to Philadelphia to take on the Union, so we have a lot of good MLS soccer on deck tonight. But the interesting thing though is I like that actually. I like the fact that the media is anti-Spurs because it reinforces and it galvanizes that us against the world mentality going into that final, where everybody is talking about not if Manchester United wins, it's when they win, and that's just going to reinforce this group. And again, I have been in those situations, and specifically when it comes to U.S. sports. And again, this is American football, but there was a Super Bowl back in 2014 that involved the Denver Broncos and the Seattle Seahawks. And the entire run up to that Super Bowl, it was all about the Denver Broncos and had nothing to do with the Seattle Seahawks. And everybody just kept counting them out. Like their road to that Super Bowl was null and void. Like it didn't matter. Because it's not going to be if the Broncos win, it's going to be how many points by. And what that ended up doing was it reinforced that narrative that it's going to be us against the world, and the Seahawks went out there and absolutely beat the ever-living shit out of the Broncos. It was like one of the most lopsided Super Bowls in Super Bowl history next to 1989, 1990. So with this, with all of this media coverage, and they're taking a piss on Spurs. Me personally, Drew, I love it, man. Because because it's bulletin board material. All Ange Postecoglou has to say, look, this is what they think about you.
We're very thick-skinned Spurs fans, right? Just want to bring another. This is bias as well. I don't mind banter. Arsenal fans can slag us off. They'll call us shids. We'll call them gooners. We both adopted them names as a form of reverse psychology, right? To deflect it from being an insult or a pejorative term. But then the media will come out with a term called Spursy, right? Now, I don't mind that. I mean, but
I just like it with passion.
Yeah, right? You're going to come out with the term Spursy. Fine, I don't mind that. But why haven't you got a term for Arsenal like Farsenal when they're not doing well, right? Call them Farsenal. Why haven't you got a term for Man United when they don't? Man United have done really well. You don't call them bit manure, Manu, or something like that. I'm sure someone could think up something clever. So Isba, I even heard that Adrian Durham on a show. There was two teams playing. They weren't Spurs in the league. Oh, a bit of a Spursy performance by Darlington or whatever it was. And then that does stick in my craw because I think you cunt. Sorry. I think like you're doing that. I said like your wife's an Arsenal fan anyway, so we know you're and you pretend to be a Peterborough supporter and go to a few games, But I mean, like to me, we're entitled to like push back as hard as we can against these. There's a lot of that, and there'll even be anti-Semites out there as well against Spurs as well because of the history of the Jewish connections as well, And this is why we adopted the Yid Army, not because whether you're politically this way or that way, or what happens in the Middle East, I'm not interested in that. The reason why I adopted my banner in my groups up there, Yid Army and all that, is nothing to do with what's going on out there. It's my stand against racism, right? That's my stand against racism. and it's the Spurs fans stand against racism, which we've had to put up with. When fans used to come in the late 60s to the Spurs ground and sing "Gassing the Jews" and making hissing noises like gas and shit like that, and that's why we adopted the word "yid," and that's why we nicknamed the Arsenal Gooners. It was a pushback, so they adopted it as a tribal name now, and we've adopted the word "yid" as a tribal. It's got nothing to do with racism, man. Ours is a anti-racist adoption, man.
I want to ask this question because I'm just curious, Drew, how you feel about this. But who needs this trophy more, Manchester United or Tottenham Hotspur, and why?
Oh, Tottenham, absolutely, Tottenham. I mean, I know all the Man United fans out there are going to say Man United, and maybe even some neutrals are going to say Man United, because Man United's fall from grace has been so severe. Like, let's not take anything away from it. Like, Manchester United as a football entity and Tottenham, it is absolute night and day. Absolute. But right now, as far as I'm concerned, Manchester United are only bigger in name and in history. Right now, I think we've got their number, and I don't have any concerns. But I just think with the histrionics of it, I can see the argument for why people would say it's got to be United, because they need to get back on track, and Spurs have never really been on track in the first place. But we've got such a huge stack or column on our shoulders. I don't know if you call it a monkey on your back, whatever you want to call it.
100%
we've got at this point. Yeah, do you know what I mean? I think it's I don't know if is it a herd? I don't know what it is. A herd of monkeys? Basically, there's a lot. There's a whole heap of them. Yeah, troop. A battalion. A battalion. There you go. It's unreal. So I just think we need this to give us any sort of hope of thinking that there might be the opportunity for us to gather momentum and grab a couple more of these in all of our lifetime, right? You know, because I don't think we're ever going to be one of those teams that invest so much money that we do a Manchester City and we become a dynasty and we go on to win, 5 out of 9 and become everybody's most hated team. It's just not going to happen. But if we can do a better job of competing in the league, and off of the back of this, gather a bit of momentum, maybe, get a couple of really, I don't know, say world-class players, because I'm not even sure world-class players exist much anymore. That it's just everything's kind of been a little bit diluted. And when I hate to sound like the old man, because I'm sure you two, you certainly look older than I do, but I remember when I was.
And I was going to say, you're absolutely right. And you look like a bag of shit, dude.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was just going to, when I was growing up, the amount of names that you had just watching people, the likes of your Romarios up front, your Roberto Baggios, and just that Italian team in the 90s, the Brazilian team in the 90s. I don't, even like Stefan Effenberg. Names like that I can just remember sitting down and watching and thinking to myself, these are real, genuine icons of the game. Del Piero, watching those guys play on a Sunday afternoon with mum and dad in the Serie A. Yeah, I just, even Ruud Gullit and Van Basten, I'm young, I'm old enough, that I caught Channel 4 back at home, and Channel 4 back home had the rights to the Serie A. So I used to listen to Peter Brackley, God rest his soul, wonderful commentator. And I was lucky enough to see Van Basten, Rijkaard and Gullit play for AC Milan. And I remember the Sunday afternoon when George Weah ran the entire length of the pitch for AC Milan and put it in the back of the net and stuff like that. And just Oh, it's giving me goosebumps just thinking about it. And even Rivaldo's and people like that, sort of the later generation, you don't. They're few and far between nowadays, I think. But if we can, if by some miracle we can actually get over the line, we can have a bit of a reset this summer, go again, keep a couple of the players that I genuinely think we really need to keep. And I've kind of changed my tune on Romero because I was like, you know what, if the guy wants to go, let him go. But I'm like, you know what, if there's any, I guess I haven't changed my tune. If the guy wants to go and there's no way of changing his mind, then I guess you've got to cash in. But if there's any way at all, you can sit him down and go, look, this is where we're going now. This is the project. We need you to be a part of it. And you can get him to sign another contract, even if it's to convince him, to give him more money and convince him over the course of the next year that you're actually doing what you say you're going to do. Then I think there's a good chance that we could, I would say become a bit of a powerhouse. I don't know if that's a little bit cliched, but I just want us to be, I just want us to be where I genuinely think we should be. That era, 6 to 8 years ago with the Poch, when we were up there, when it was second, third, Champions League, giving people going toe to toe with your Real Madrids and your Barcelonas, and maybe not always getting over the line, but you know what? Putting clocking them a couple of times and making them see stars and go, you know what? We're actually here for a minute. Like we're not a breeze, because we were that for a little window, and it was wonderful. And I'd just be happy with that. I don't necessarily need trophies year on year on year. I just need to see us within touching distance of it and continually striving to be within touching distance. If we end up being a club where, the overall hierarchy are just happy with, I guess, kind of the Kroenke kind of vibe with them like up the road, where you're just, and us to a certain extent with the Levy, where there's the argument where he's just been content with getting 4 and just kind of bringing the money in and just kind of keeping everything ticking over. I mean, I've got a car I can keep ticking over. Do you know what I mean? I'd really like to actually strive to achieve some things. So yeah, that's all I want. And I genuinely, we need it more. And I think it would really genuinely help us kick on.
It'd be a game changer. It'd be a game changer. If we win the Europa League, when you're in the Champions League, go on.
Hold on, Adrian. So Drew, maybe maybe it's just me, but I kind of do want to see a trophy every year. At least at least being able to to get to finals and putting us in a position to actually lift a trophy, whether it's League Cup, FA Cup, whatever the case may be. I'd like to see that. But here's the thing, right? When I hear the word Spursy, I take it as disrespect. I absolutely do, because it means that we're bottle jobs. It means that we choke. And I would like to have that erased from the lexicon and the vocabulary of English soccer fans worldwide. I would love to have that. 100%. It's Tottenham Hotspur, because you know what? Manchester United had their time in the sun under Sir Alex Ferguson. Straight up, they had their time, and they did a very good job. And that will never be erased from the record books. But it's our time. It's 100% our time. I just feel that way. And lifting a trophy, Adrian, is going to erase everything. At least for a day, a week, a month, whatever the case may be. That's going to erase all negative connotations, because we didn't bottle it. We showed up on the day and we're the better team, and nobody's going to be able to take that away. But even in the context of the season, everything that's happened over the with the injuries, with the Ange out, Ange in, ENIC out, whatever the case may be, everybody's going to be moving in the same direction. But it also erases these last 5 years when we're chopping and changing the manager and the philosophy every 18 months. This erases it. It absolutely erases it. And one of the things that this does is it sets Tottenham on a course. And Drew, you were talking about maybe this sways Romero to stay, but it probably sways Betancourt to say to re-up for a couple more years with Tottenham, because now all of a sudden we're coming off a trophy and Paratici's coming in, and they know talent recognizes talent. And that's what this does. It actually allows us to kick on, to put ourselves back in a top four type position where we're actually challenging for trophies. So I don't know, Adrian, man. I think this actually, that's the reason why Tottenham deserves this far more than Manchester United, because they've had their time. They've had their run.
Yeah, well, it gives,
and they've had multiple opportunities to come up off the ground floor, but they keep, they just keep stepping on their own dick. So as far as I'm concerned, it's our time.
Well, we should keep looking backwards either like that. It's unproductive. And we should be looking forward. You can build on this. If you win it, you build on it. You're getting about 90 million in. So you can have a decent transfer window. You can attract players. And then you've got to think, which some of the protesters, not them all, there might be some who will begrudge the fact that Angel alluded to that actually want us to lose this to pile even more pressure on Levy, And if we win it, great for us. And it's also, believe it or not, even if you hate to say it, it's fantastic for Levy because it's the biggest get out of jail card he's in. Because if we were to lose it, you can imagine what's going to go down next, right? So like it's the biggest, but we've got something we can build on, win this trophy, build on it, and he gets his ninth life right chance to get the football inside of this club right. There have been a lot of positive changes at all levels throughout the club, and we have failed better in the transfer market of late, But we know we're still short, We need to get at least a minimum of like 3 quality players in the summer. If we get any more, there'll be loans, I reckon, because we're not going to buy a 4 or 5, not with a 337 million transfer debt that's being amortized, So yeah, so. No, it'd be a big game changer. We need this. The fans need it, for their support. They deserve it as well. But Man United fans would be saying the same, But they've I'm no fan of Man United, but them and Liverpool have got the best pedigrees in Britain because they've won these Champions Leagues and they've won these championships, haven't they? So yeah.
Just a quick FYI, they've actually cancelled the protests for tomorrow's game.
Okay, that's interesting.
The change for Tottenham guys.
Yeah, that makes sense with the team coming back from winning.
Yeah, I'm glad that happened because I think right now, knowing that we're competing in a European final, it probably does. That message isn't probably going to hit the way it would have like 2 months ago. You know what I mean? Like where everyone was at a fever pitch.
Right. I mean, I kind of have I feel a certain way about protests. I mean, I think protests are for saving lives and for freeing people and for things like that. I genuinely think that if you're protesting because your billion-dollar football club isn't spending millions of dollars on players that you want, that's not a protest. Do you know what I mean? And for you to wander down a street and protest against something and then go into the exact thing that you're protesting and spend money there, it's just preposterous in my head. But each to their own. Do you know what I mean? You have at it, do what you like, but it makes zero sense to me.
What you think you're going to achieve by it. Now, I'm in solidarity with the protesters. I went to 2, right? I've met Brian Daigle at 1. He's been on our shows, things like that. I've been to 2, and I wouldn't go to any more afterwards. Different reasons. When you run podcasts, you're online, you're getting it.
Sure. You're a happy clapper. You're this, you're that. You're getting insults, dogs abuse and stuff like that. So then like you think, I'll do it my way. I've said this. I've been a season ticket for the club for, on and off for decades. But I said, we don't win this Europa League, I'm not joining. I'm not renewing my season ticket. Right. And that's my protest. I want to see, which I think what most of the protesters want to see, because if you go back to Newcastle, they protested far more vehemently than our fans have. They made far more noise about it, right? Yeah. So the problem. What I'm saying with that is, and they couldn't, and all that protesting, couldn't remove Mike Ashley. Mike Ashley sold that club when he wanted to sell it. He didn't go, right? So what I'm saying is, you won't, by protesting, you're not going to remove Levy. He owns it. It's actually his, I know we as
fans, we own the club. We've got history, we're legacy. We go back all those years with it, and it's part of us, and we live and breathe it. But him and ENIC own the club, right? So it will only be sold when they decide, or an investor may come
for
in.
sure.
I want a new owner. I don't want an investor. The word investor should tell you everything you need to know, right? No, I don't want a new owner. What I wanted to see, because I've had experiences here with a friend of mine that was a bit ill. We don't go to the game pre-match now. He comes in late. I want to see, which I think a lot of people want to see, a cultural change. You know, that was a good touch to put a scarf on every seat of the way and a Buddha blimp, right?
Yeah.
Now you're not thinking pound. Your eyes aren't just lit up with pound signs all the time. You know, where's the culture? You know, when you put up them prices last year, you suspended them this year because you knew there were going to be a backlash, not because it was out of the goodness of your heart, right? So, and that only raked them in another 3 million or something, you know.
Right.
So, like,
my only issue with this protest was that it was extremely hypocritical. Like, number one, if you want to protest, okay, fine, man. You know, go do what you got to do. It's certainly within your right to stand up against something that you believe against. But, you know, like, for instance, like over here, protests aren't protests, they're riots. So maybe it's just I have negative connotations when it comes to the word protest because it's anything but for me it was hypocritical, right? And I've said this from the absolute beginning, and I know that we're kind of veering off a little bit, but it's got to be said.
Yeah, my bad. I apologize.
No. I'm glad you brought this up, Drew. But but the thing about it is you and I are kind of in the same boat, and I've said this from the very beginning. If you want to protest, don't spend your money. Don't show up to the stadium, because that actually sends the message, right? Imagine if in that first leg against Bodo Glimt that they were playing in front of 100 people and not 60,000. That sends a message, right? And it also embarrasses the club, and they get the message. Don't renew your season tickets. Don't buy merchandise. Don't buy concessions. Don't pay for parking if you're driving down the stadium or whatever. It's like, do not give ENIC your money, and that is how you protest. Because if what you're protesting is that they're putting profits above football, then don't allow them to profit.
That is it. Well, also, as well, just one last point as well, because the hypocrisy and the sort of contradiction is rife as well, because I get it on social media a fair bit as well about how I'm not really entitled to an opinion because I left England. So I'm not close. Man. I'm not close enough to the club to be able to have an opinion. I don't spend. So the thing is that because I don't have a season ticket or because I don't go to games, I'm not allowed to have an opinion. But yet, because I have all this merchandise behind me and I can show the amount of money that I spend on the club, but then I'm also a villain for giving my club money. So I've got to spend money on a ticket to have a voice. But if I spend money other ways, by showing my support, I get it in the neck for showing my support and giving money to the club. Like this is why I'm so over it sometimes, you know. I talk to my friends and my clique about the club and we have fun on these channels. But other than that, I just don't get involved. Just don't get involved.
I live 1.5 miles from the ground. I can walk there in 40 minutes now, even at my age, right? And walk back, right? Just because I'm got better access to the ground, I'm a season ticket holder, doesn't make me a better fan than any other fan out there who genuinely loves this football club. You guys out there, you're in America, Canada, Australia, Southeast Asia and all that. You get up all times of the day to watch us play, 4 a.m, you know, all these different times. And you buy the merchandise, stuff like that, you know. And I'm actually not against, Steve, people, whether they want to renew their season tickets. I mean, I've been a season ticket on and off for years and years and years. So with me, I've sort of got that little thing. Well, I can get a One Hotspur membership, and then like I can pick games I go to and get tickets to anyway, and not necessarily go to every game. And I get the fact that people won't give up their season ticket because they're frightened they might not ever get it back. And I get that, and that's showing a strong bond with the club anyway. So I'm not against them not renewing. Mine is my experience with friends at the club. I didn't like the attitude of what happened there that particular time. And I just think there's more they could do. I think you could have water stations around the concourses. You could have more sort of paramedics walking down when my mate sat on the step, going out the queue to get a bottle of water and then getting to his seat past. I just thought well, where's your backup in here when things go wrong? You know what I mean? Or someone becomes ill or something like that. So then I thought, nah, there's got to be cultural changes like that, and you could understand it if it was a different business and not sport, where they struggled and they didn't have the money to do these things, these little touches, like putting them scarves on them seats. Yeah. Little touches. People going about, oh, there should be statues and all that. Well, and then when's the museum open, and stuff like that. I get that. I'm not a fan of the statues argument, because I've experienced so many legends at this club. You'd have a terracotta army around the stadium if you put a statue up to everyone, and people only remember the players in their recent memory. So if you're a young generational supporter, you're not going to remember any of the greats or know anything about them unless you go and read up on your history. I'm more for having murals around the stadium, whether they're made out of bronze or whatever, of teams of eras that have won something, and like you may want to put, if you're going to do it for managers like Nicholson and Birkinshaw and or Arthur Rowe and put statues up for them, that's fair enough. When you start talking about putting statues up to players, well, you've got the whole double team to start off. Glenn Hoddle was the best player England have ever produced, right? And that's just starting. You're not even mentioning Bale, Modric, players. So like, I'm not statues, but murals and other things they can think of and get that museum open, right?
Yeah, the crazy thing is there's no one way to be a fan, and this is what drives me absolutely batshit crazy. It's like, I'll give you a good example. There's a gentleman who sometimes shows up on the Irish Hotspur and Last Word on Spurs, and he spends, because he's in a position to spend his money and travel and because he's a traveling supporter, it makes him like this exalted figure where his opinion matters more than the common fan. My brother feels that same way too, because he travels to watch the Sounders, and all of a sudden it's like his opinion matters more than somebody else. And it's like, if you're a supporter, regardless of where you're in England or whether you're in the United States, Australia, Canada, wherever it is, and you passionately support this club, you buy the merchandise, you do make a pilgrimage to White Hart Lane to watch this team once a year. As far as I'm concerned, your opinion matters just as much as yours, Drew, yours, Adrian, anybody in this chat. If you are a Spurs fan, your voice absolutely matters, and you can actually speak on this club without having anybody to try to silence your opinion. I absolutely cannot stand the exalted fan who wants to put himself in that position. But I digress. So I do want to switch the conversation, Drew, because last night you brought up a very interesting conversational point, and I want to pick up again. You mentioned the two. Yeah, you did. I mean, I know. Call me crazy, but that was a good
unreal.
That was a great topic.
Blimey.
I know.
Hey,
go Drew.
Yeah, no, you were talking about the two pathways, and I do want to continue that conversation, because the reality is, it looks like, and from my vantage point, it looks like that we are going to host a European trophy, and I think that's going to create problems. For the fan base, there's a it's split right down the middle. There's a lot of fans that want Ange out. Regardless of what happens, there's going to be Ange out. Now, me personally, I'm Tottenham in. I'm not Enoch out. I'm not Levy out. I'm not Ange out. I'm Tottenham in. Period. Right. That's it. I want what's best for this club. Year after year after year, that's exactly what I want. But the reality is, if this happens and we hoist a trophy, Ange will be the first manager since 1984 to hoist a European trophy. Regardless if it's a champion, it does not matter. I would feel the same way if this was the Conference League as well too. The reality is he has done something that no other manager has been able to accomplish since 2008, 1984, 1991. Our trophies are far and few in between, and that actually carries some weight. Mm-hmm. But then we also have 19 league losses, which you also have to bring into consideration.
Right.
Mm. My question to you, Drew, is how important is this decision regarding the manager? Because it actually is going to have impact. It's going to carry some weight.
Yeah, I think it's really, really difficult if you look at the reaction of the players and the coach the other night, I think regardless of what, I mean, to me, it screams togetherness. Somebody made a point on a podcast, Jim on Oso Spurs, big up Jim. And there was a moment, and I know you can spin things any way that you want to spin them. And if it wasn't as nice as, if it wasn't a particular way, then it probably wouldn't have been published. But there was a bit on the Ange video that came out from the dressing room after the match when he was about to start his speech, and Pedro Porro and Solanke come in, and they're the last ones to the party. And Porro starts screaming and shouting, and some noise starts to erupt. And Ange turns around and tells everyone to be quiet. And everyone goes quiet, and he starts talking. Now, to me, that doesn't scream somebody who doesn't have control of a dressing room.
Right.
And again, as I say, you can kind of spin it any which way you like, but I feel like there was some genuine emotion in that video. I think there was a moment there where you see that he's sort of half a little bit kind of, I don't want to say choked up's the right word, but he was a tad bit more emotional than either he lets on or we've been allowed to see. And I think I think if there's a blanket understanding that there was a need, and again, I've been harping on at the fact when there were 33 points left to play for, we should have been playing for them, whatever. It's water under the bridge. We're over it. I think if there's a blanket understanding across the board, the league is clearly not good enough. That needs to be addressed. I think if you've got your big hitters on board with him, I think if he can realize that what he's done, and this is the thing that I'm having a hard time squaring in my head, is that right now, I don't know if the way we're playing in Europe is something that, because we're not playing. See, here's the thing. We're not playing with those players in the league. We're playing with other players, but we're not playing the same style in the league as we have done in Europe. And that's the thing that I'm having trouble getting around in my head, because I think you've seen a scenario in Europe where the team are starting to play a different way. Now, is that because he's got the players back and the players are starting to understand it more? Or, as I've been told, the players are just playing for themselves and they've just worked out that that's what they want to do, even though I find that absolutely baffling. Like why they need to be able to take what they're doing in Europe, they need to be able to put that into the league setting, and there needs to be an understanding that change has to come, because I think he's been found out in the Premier League, and I think that Europe is helping him. I don't want to be disrespectful, but let's not beat around the bush. The quality of the Europa League is just not quite there, right? It's
correct.
It's almost like it's between, I want to say maybe between the Championship and the Premier League. Maybe it's kind of in this weird area where it's not quite as good as this, but it's better than that. So I don't know. I want him to have another season, because I think the upheaval of getting another coach is just going to mean that what could potentially happen now, we're just going to push out and delay. Like, I get it. If we get 5, 6, 8 games into the season and it really looks like it's not working and it's still the same thing and nobody's learned their lesson, then obviously a change has got to be made. I'm not sitting here and going to die on that hill. But I think he's if he lifts the trophy, he deserves the right to at least be given another shot, especially if, the players are on board. And it looks to me like the players are on board.
Yeah, I think
sorry for the very long-winded
No.
answer, but yeah, that's me.
No, and I will say that there is a definite drop off of quality between the first team and the second team, right? When Ange rotates in the Premier League, and especially as we've seen over the last couple months when that has happened, there is a definite quality differential between Christian Romero and Kevin Danso, from Mikey Van de Ven to Ben Davis, right? There is
the thing is, Steve, is that I was told that this wasn't. I was told that this was the strongest squad.
Sure. Well, listen, I mean, if that's what you believe, I mean, from the beginning of the season, I knew that in order for this team to even sniff the top four, everything had to break right and they couldn't get injured. Because if that happened, this was going to be a slugfest, and it sure enough played out that way. But that being said, I do think there has been some change in the style of play, because when I looked at this now, maybe it's because it's recent, but the way that they played against West Ham somewhat mirrored the two games or the three games they played between Frankfurt and Bodo Glimt. To your point, you're 100% right, and that's where the Ange out crowd comes in. He says, "Well, look, they say, look who we played in Europa League. We played Bodo, we played Frankfurt, we played AZ Alkmaar, teams that are not even really at the top of their own league. But look at those teams and look at the leagues that they play in. A lot of weak leagues, and the realization that he came from Celtic, right? Because outside of Rangers and maybe Aberdeen, the rest of the league is absolute garbage, right? And to your point, there is a huge differential between the bottom half of the Premier League versus the bottom half of the Scottish Premier League. It's a difference in night and day, and to a point where potentially they have figured them out. I know that the Gary O'Neill quote always comes back, where he essentially said if you press Tottenham high, they essentially collapse. The reality, though, is that when I look at the season as a whole, number one, last year as well too, because once the injuries hit against Chelsea, it was a different team. This year, I thought we were starting to get our footing in the league. At one point between late September through October, it looked like we were starting to get our footing. And then all of a sudden we were hit with injuries, and all of a sudden certain positions had to be rotated because of injury, and the quality drop off happened. And then all the injuries hit at once, and it essentially sank our season. And I go back to it because it's absolutely true. I don't care if you're Pep Guardiola, Mikel Arteta, Jurgen Klopp, Arne Slot, whoever. If you have that many injuries to your first team, and understanding that the quality isn't necessarily there in your second team, you can try to motivate these dudes as much as you want, but quality is quality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Quality is quality.
There's an argument, if we'd have had the luck, and this is just an argument, if we'd have had the luck that Liverpool had this season with injuries, then there's a chance you could have got away with this squad being what it was, and you could have had such a strong 11 that you're blowing teams out of sight, and you're able to rotate in those kids that we bought, and you can maybe get away with being the 2 to 3 players shy that I think we genuinely are. But given to your point, what you just said, you can't legislate for the amount of injuries that we had, but because of those injuries and because we were those 2 to 3 players shy, the proof has been in that pudding that we are drastically underpowered for what we've been asked to achieve. And it's just that you can't, unfortunately. It would be nice to be able to go back and see what would be possible. But that's why I think there's an argument. If you can finally start keeping these guys fit, and you can bring in a couple of players, and then you can bring in the right medical staff, because I think we're all in agreement that obviously needs a new, needs an overhaul. If you can start getting some sort of semblance of order in that department, and like I say, bolster the squad, get a couple of real not long in the tooth, but a couple have been there and done it. 50, 60 games in their legs, rather than some relegation
Correct.
fodder that have maybe got 40 at a push. I think you can get somewhere.
Yeah, and Adrian, the interesting thing though is like, and I do believe what you just said, because if we didn't have the injury crisis and we had that back five at the right time, all together, and we actually have, and we're actually starting to get into that season. At that point, 100% we win the League Cup, 100% we beat Liverpool, and we're talking about a double this season, instead of what has happened. The interesting thing about this, the other thing that, hold on real quick. The other thing that I will say, and the other thing I keep hearing, is the fact that if we bring back Ange, we're going to be in an Erik ten Hag situation. And I push back against this is because, number one, Erik ten Hag had lost his locker room. They were not putting in the effort because of Erik ten Hag and the way that he was treating players. Words came out and it leaked that he was treating players pretty shitty because of the mounting pressure and because of some of these losses. He was reacting in a negative way. The difference is Ange does have the clubhouse, he does have the locker room, and he has the respect of his players, and we know that because we're in a European final, and that doesn't happen. If that is true, this does not happen. And so my whole thing is, if we win it, you have to bring him back because of everything that's happened, and he was still able to lift a European trophy in this downward spiral. He was able to lift it. He was able to keep everybody focused to get to a European final. Like, this is probably the toughest job that Ange Postecoglou has had to endure in his career up to this point. And I would probably say that this job this season is like, you almost have to give him his props because of everything that's happened. I can't think of a manager off the top of my head that's had to endure this season and still was able to hoist a trophy at the end of it. I don't know. I can't think of one.
Let's take a little, let's digress a bit back to his first season. He comes into the club. He loses Harry Kane, arguably the world's best striker. Yeah. We go 10 games, 8 wins and 2 draws, which is a record. Then VDV gets injured, a key player for us, right? Then what happens? Maddison gets injured. Matty Cash does Bentancur. Players that were playing out their skin for us, right? You had Richarlison got 1 suspension. Basuma got 3 suspensions that year. Players went out on international duty and come back, and we finished 5th. All that we put up with nowhere near the injuries we've had this season, and we finished 5th. So, and a win or 2 probably would have got us 3rd the way it worked out last season.
To your point, though, to your point, Sonny goes out to the Asian Cup. I was going to say, to your point, Sonny goes to the Asian Cup last year and comes back, and it's a drop in form where he only had 5 goals the rest of the way. Absolutely. And
you come back, and then people could talk about, we should play the inverted fullbacks. We haven't played. When have we played the high line? When have we been parked on a halfway line where like we were under Poch? When have we done that? And they say, both our wingbacks, they invert. Well, look, see, some fans are suffering for what I call perception deception, right? I mean, you're not seeing what's actually happening on the field. I'm at the advantage because I get the error view from my seat. So I'm watching patterns. When we throw-ins, I'm looking to see where players are positioned, which you're not going to see that on the telly, right? Everywhere, right? So I look at all of that. Porro inverts. You doggy? No, he doesn't. He overlaps. He likes to overlap. He will try and cut in occasionally, but he's not like, his game plan isn't to invert like Porro. Porro loves getting forward, doesn't he? He just loves it, right? But then what you lose
overlaps too.
And what you lose then when Porro inverts, whereas when Decky and Porro were playing together, they used to get overloads down the right-hand side. One of them might be on the corner flag, the other one weren't. So actually with Johnson, I have some sympathy with his game because a lot of time when Porro inverts, he's cut out of it. Unless he's in space on the right, he's cut out of it. Whereas Maddison, who loves to play centre or drift left, he's always linking with Porro and Son. And you're not getting the same on the right-hand side. And, of course, if Porro's forward, we lose the ball, there's a big gap. So the biggest difference that you were saying earlier about away to West Ham, away to Brentford, away to Frankfurt, away to Buda, right, is that we had 2 holding midfield players instead of one. And that's made a dramatic difference. Admittedly, against Frankfurt, everyone said, oh, we set out, played away. No, you deceived yourselves again. We only decided to sit back when we got the goal and decided to hold it at Frankfurt. If you look at the first half, it's a different story. Both teams went at each other. They had more of the ball, I think. But once we got the goal, right, now you've got to score 2, right? So if you get 1, it's penalties or extra time. So you're away to a tough side. I thought they're a tougher side than Buda Glint anyway. But, yeah, I just think just that one tweak, the holding midfield, people keep talking about number 6 drives me nuts, right? You want 2 there. Look what Poch did with 4-2-3-1. And you had the desk up front, didn't you? DESK, Dele, Ericsson, Son, and Kane. Now, out of them, right, only Kane could drop back and help. The other 3 couldn't. So you can't moan about tracking back so much, right? Because Ericsson couldn't tackle to save his life, right? Son can't.
That's funny.
So you know.
No, you're absolutely right.
Dele's not a great tackler either. But look at that front 4. They would get you the 100 goals that you would need to win the season, which is what we have to look for in players that we bring in, you know. So, yeah, it's just look, if you're not happy, you don't like the manager, I get that. Fans are entitled to their opinion. If you don't like players, I get that. We all love and hate players. But I've always supported every manager and every player while they're at the club, whether I've liked them or not. And there's been many I haven't liked, right? But I'm a bit like you, Steve. I mean, because that's my Spurs core. That's why I was brought up as a fan. Right. This is what you did. You were 100% loyal. When they left, you went, thank you for your service. Thank you for your contributions. Good luck in your chosen path and go, you know. But, you know, I didn't even hate Sol Campbell. I won't sing that song. I won't sing the hate songs, you know. I just won't sing them. But I'll chant You'd Army to my dying breath, and I'm not doing it in a racist way, you know. No, it's the difference. I won't stand up and sing "Stand Up If You Hate West Ham," "Stand Up If You Hate Arsenal," "Stand Up If You Hate Chelsea," right? And it effing annoys me when they do it because I'm trying to watch the game and suddenly people are standing up in front of me and I can't see the pitch. And I paid 70 quid for this seat. Sit down. You know what I mean? But you don't shout them because you don't want to start fights all over the ground. And then people look at you. Why are you not standing up with us? You know what I mean? They look at you like, give you that discerning look. And I'm like, I ain't getting up. Like, no.
Yeah, you highlight something that I think Ange has to have credit for. You're absolutely right. Instead of playing his traditional 4-3-3 with 8 men attacking the box and having possession, he's actually been playing a 4-2-3-1. 2 holding midfielders that necessarily aren't getting forward. As a matter of fact, they're camped in the passing lanes. They're there to cut off movement in the midfield, keeping the attack on the wings, which actually stifled Bodo Glimt in both legs, right? So I think that's when you look at how Ange has attacked AZ Alkmaar, how he's attacked Frankfurt, and how he's attacked Bodo. It's absolutely night and day between each individual round because it required different tactics in order to progress to get to this final. And that's the thing. It's like, and Zedai here brings up a very good point. He says our fans have a narrative in their mind, and it's blinding what they're actually seeing in the name of being Ange out. He's 100% correct because if you take emotion out of it and you're actually looking and watching the game, you will see that not only has he adjusted, but he's actually been correct in the tactics in which he came in to each individual round. He is adjusting the tactics based on the opponent, not just we are who we are, mate. That is the everlasting impression of Ange Postecoglou, but it's 100% not true. You're absolutely right about that.
Well, the whole point when you're playing 4-2-3-1, if you just consider the fullbacks as defenders, we know they get forward, right? Under Poch, we played some cracking attacking football with a 4-2-3-1. Actually, that's like a 7-4. You've got 4 attackers and you've got 7 at the back when your fullbacks are staying back. What Conte and Mourinho played was an 8-3. They were more defensive orientated with their setup. It was more of an 8-3. So obviously we knew, and we're relying on the counter with Son and Kane, basically. You know, played more on the counter. So it can be. You can play 2 holding midfielders and play an attacking football, But you've got it now, because when we get breaks on the right, if you've got the two holding midfielders, then if someone gets the sudden spring attack on the right, you've got your left-sided midfielder holding midfield who can go and help out. And where we got caught a lot on the right this season, when Porro's gone forward, you've got your right-sided midfielder. But, someone question of, the footballing brain of some of these footballers who can't see what's happening in the field, unless they're specifically told, do that, nothing else, I don't. Where's your thinking? Where's your football brain? You can see we're under pressure. Why aren't you coming back? I mean, everyone moans at Johnson, but when Johnson and Vernon were both playing on the wings, they both hugged that touchline, and you just know they're told to stay out there. But come on, when things are going really bad, I know the manager's told you to do that. Come back and help out. Kane didn't need telling. He used to come back all the time for corners and stuff and cleared off the line and things like that.
That's because he's Harry Kane.
Yeah, so but we have started. We look better with two holding midfielders. Our only concern going to the final is will Kulu pull something out of the bag, something creative. He's not a Maddison on the ball, all right? The quick turn, slide pass, quick half turn, go the other way. He's not Maddison, so the creativity. I don't think anyone's really going to change, like Drew alluded to earlier. You can sort of pick the 9. It would be very surprising if you say Son's going to play, as you're sort of picking the 10. Johnson scored a lot of goals. That might be it. You know what the midfield's going is virtually going to be the same team, barring with Richarlison on the bench if Son makes it, isn't it? So unless a youngster really steps up tomorrow, we've got a good record at Palace, won the last 9 at home against them. So unless a youngster steps up tomorrow, and it'd have to be someone a bit special like a Mikey Moore. He's the only one you could think of and really shows something. But you've always got, for a latter stage of a game, in a cup final when nerves and legs are turned to jelly and everyone's running, we would have the option of bringing on Odobert and Tell, who took a lovely corner yesterday, by the way. He's good at dead balls, actually, yeah.
Speaking of our captain, we have to get into it. Son Heung-min is slated to get back, I believe, this weekend against Crystal Palace. My question to you, Drew, is what is the expectation for the captain regarding this final? The interesting thing about Sonny is he is a veteran. I'm wondering, because of the nature of the injury and because of his age, I'm wondering how much rust it's going to require for Sonny to shake it off, right? We've seen Dominic Solanke have to take some games to get into his current form. My guy Kulusevski is still trying to shake off the rust. What is that expectation between now and then? And what do you think is the plan when it comes to that final, when it comes to our captain?
I've got a feeling that he's going to play a part tomorrow. And I'm always, sorry to sound like a broken record, but I mean, it's always just the unwritten rule, isn't it? That if you're not going to get through 45 minutes, you're not going to start a game. So if he doesn't start tomorrow, it means he doesn't have 45 minutes in his legs. So I would expect to see him second half if he's got 30 minutes in him. And then I know it's a slightly quicker turnaround than we thought, but you would then think that if he gets through that unscathed, you try and maybe do the same against Villa, give him another 30 to 45 minutes. But I don't, as I said earlier, I don't want to romanticize it. I don't want us to get all la-di-da just because he's the captain and he's been here for such a long time and all this. Like if he's not absolutely raring to go, I don't think he should start the final. So these two games, it's really important to see how he fares.
You take me back to 1991. I just want to add this point about playing him. A friend of mine said to me, because there was doubts about Gazza and his injury, and he did injure himself in the final. He was lucky that Roger Milford, the referee, didn't send him off, right? But my friend said to me, Mark, he went, what do you think Venables is going to do? He said, do you think he'll keep Gazza on the bench and bring him on in the second half? What would you do? And I said, now this is barring whether Son's got we don't know what he's got in his legs. So he's got to play at least half in the next 2 games, in my opinion, right? And I turned around and I said to Mark, I went, you start him. I said, why? Because I said, like, supposing he's got an hour on his legs. Supposing he gives us an hour. I said, you brought him on in the second half with 30 minutes or even the second half to go. We might have got more out of him. So play him. I would start him. If he's sharp in training, I would play him until he ran out of gas. So if he's on the hour mark, like he has been pulled off in games, then pull him off. Because he's still our best finisher. I know he hasn't looked great on the eye test, but he is something that he can change a game like that when he's on, when he's on point. He can smash a goal in like, and we haven't got another goal scorer like him. I know Solanke's got 13 and 8 assists. I know Maddison and Cooley have chipped him with about 11 each and loads of assists. But we haven't got a finisher like Son who can finish with both his feet. And I know he's looked crap on the eye test, but his numbers ain't too bad. But yeah.
I don't know. I used to know everybody. Who's United's right-sided defender now? Because it's not Dallo anymore, is it? No, I think or is it Dallo?
I think
maybe it is Dallo. Am I getting Dallo and Darmian mixed up? Darmian went to Italy, right? So maybe Dallo's still there.
I believe so. Yeah.
I don't know, because now they're playing this 3-5-2, right? Or are they playing 5-3-2?
I think it's a 5-3-2 with wing backs bombing up the side. So it, like in the attack, it's the 3 in the back. But the interesting thing though is there is a huge discrepancy between defenders, goalkeepers, and outfield players, right? So when Romero, Van de Ven, and Vicario came back from injury, they were put right back into the starting 11. They walked straight into the starting 11. Russ, no Russ, whatever the case may be. Ange Postecoglou said, "Listen, dude, you're playing. Period. That's it. If it is what it is. We're going to need you." But then it comes to the midfielders and the forwards, where I can point to Dominic Solanke, Dejan Kulusevski, even Wilson Odobert. There are it's a difference, right? Because those guys, when they came back, they weren't thrust right into the starting 11. They were, they were brought off the bench.
Yeah,
right?
Big up audio. Sorry, it's Mazraoui. Big up audio.
Mazraoui. Yeah. But the reality is, Ange Postecoglou has been a far more conservative when it comes to his forward players and midfielders versus his defenders, right? And so my whole thing is like, and I've heard this too. It's like the whole Harry Kane situation with the Champions League final back in 2019. Well, it's still Harry Kane, right? It's Harry freaking Kane. Even at 75%, you're still going to play, and that's it's kind of interesting, right? So I kind of agree with you, Drew, in the context where if he's going to be back, you're absolutely right. You'll probably see him in the second half, maybe against Villa. He's actually going to get a start just to kind of get that to get that start underneath his legs prior to the final. But if it plays out that way, I would probably just assume that he's going to be starting in that final.
I hope they do go 3-5-2 because they needed the extra bodies in midfield, and they also needed the extra central defender at the back because they've been as poor as us this season. Yeah. And you can get at Man United. You can get
under Amorim. I guess they play more of a 3-4-3 or a 3-4-2-1 as in a height points out here. Yeah, I know they got wing backs that like to bomb on. So I mean, if you can, as I say, we've had their number a couple of times, obviously at least this season. So I'm not really too worried. And Patrick Dorgu, I don't really. I mean, he's young. He's going to obviously get better. But from what I've seen of him so far, I don't really think he's too much to worry about. If Johnson plays like he's been playing and Odeberg gets a run at him, I'm pretty confident that I'd say nothing. To tell you what, the only one that really worries me is that fucking bastard Bruno Fernandes. Just every time you see that guy.
Like Bruno.
Well, they got Xerxes and Garnacho, the Argentine.
I think Xerxes. I think Xerxes injured, isn't he?
And they've been, and they're.
I think so.
They see some of their players are developing. Casado, I mean, like Casemiro, right? How old's he now? 48.
88.
I mean, he's either good or the game just passes him by. And I haven't watched too much of Man United, but what I've seen, I see him play at ours and all that. We gift him a couple of goals in the League Cup 4-3, and well, Vicario did, but it didn't hurt us in the end, so that wasn't so bad. But I just, yeah, but look, it's like it's an old saying. It's who wants it more on the day? Who really wants it more? I think our team are very hungry. We've got younger players. There's players in that Man United side that have won trophies. So, all right, they've got the experience of being in the finals and in the FA Cup and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot more hunger in the Spurs players, in my opinion, a lot more hunger. I can give you, I don't know if it's just law or a true story. You want the Dave Mackay spirit. In the 1967 Cup final, when Spurs beat Chelsea 2-1 with goals from Saul and Robertson, right? I said prior to the match, in the dressing room, Dave Mackay is standing in the nude singing Scottish war songs. that was whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it's a nice story, you know. And you need that. It's like, who wants it most, you know?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's turn the page a little bit, because we do have a match against Crystal Palace coming up tomorrow, and it is important. I know that a lot of fans are still on that high after that second leg against Bilbao. I do expect there's going to be some rotation, but that being said, though, you have a home match. You're at your home against Palace, where, as you pointed out to Adrian, we actually do have a record of playing well against Palace at home. As far as lineups, what are your projections when it comes to the lineups? Because I have a few opinions on myself. So let's dive into the Crystal Palace match, and how many changes are you expecting?
Well, I was thinking about this earlier when I got up about this. You know, you got your 11 starters and 5 subs. Then I'm thinking, well, who needs game time in their legs before the final? Yep. So who needs to have, say, at least 2 halves in the next 2 games before the final? I still think Decky needs game times in his legs, right? So he has to play at least a half. You can take him off, but if he's got the lungs, let him go. Let him build up that bit of stamina. Decky needs it. Basuma hasn't played a lot of game time this season. He has played very little at all. So he plays, right? You could bring Sarr in for Bentancur. Yeah. Give Bentancur a rest because he's played well recently. Give Bentancur a rest because you really want him to play away at Villa on the Friday, even if you only give him a half. So I'd go Sarr, Basuma, and Maddison. Well, you could virtually. I mean, like Kingsley's not coming in at this stage of the season. Vicario's going to be in goal. So, you doggy. He hasn't played a great deal of football this season. I'm starting you doggy in this one, but then I might. Then VDV may drop out. Play Porro and Davies and Spence. I mean, but I'd want. And maybe you might think, because I'm still thinking of subs, and might bring VDV on if the game's going well for the last half hour, just so as he's still got something. It's like Ance's managing his players. It's very complex managing the players, right? You get into a team. So, yeah, up front, do you rest Solanke with no chance of injury? Well, no, you shouldn't worry about injuries. Like, do you play Richarlison through the middle?
Right.
And go with Tel and Odebert, and then bring Son on for half hour, and then bring Johnson on for half hour at the end. So as he keeps the momentum in his legs, because you can't knock a player who's scoring goals. You might question the fact he don't track back. Although he was trying to track back and getting bookings against Bodo Blint and silly booking and things like that. So that's what I'm talking about managing. It's not and I would sort of go like that, but.
I can see where you're coming from, because the reality is you're absolutely right. Decky needs to continue to play to get his stamina up, but also his sharpness on the ball. That has to continue. But because because Matisse Tell has been coming off the bench in the last 2 European fixtures for Richarlison on the left, I would probably assume that Matisse Tell is going to get a run out there on the left side to start. And I would probably assume that it's going to be Odegaard on the right as well too, because his minutes have not necessarily manifested over the last month, and so this would probably be a good opportunity for Odegaard to start on the right. And I also probably would assume that Richarlison is going to play a large role at that striker position, considering he was taken off after 45 in the first leg. I think he was taken off in the 55th, 60th minute in the second leg. So I would probably assume that he's probably ready to go if they needed to start, if they wanted to rest Solanke. I do agree that Basuma. But that being said, it is Crystal Palace, right? Not to downplay Crystal Palace, but I can also see a scenario where Archie Craig gets a start at that sixth position. It almost feels like this probably could be that type of match where Archie Craig gets some minutes. But then again, I could possibly see him on the right side as well too, as we saw against West Ham. He started at the right back position.
Spence,
right back position for Spence.
Spence could play on the left instead of Udogie.
Spence played on the left with both Ben Davis and Kevin Danso at that center back position. Yeah.
And we're leaving. See, because if Decky goes an hour, you can swap Decky and bring Bentancur on for the last half hour, right?
Correct.
At the same time, I would expect Mikey Moore to get minutes. If you can't play him in these last 3 games to go, and we need Europe because you play them extra 8 games, don't you? So you can play if you've got a weak opposition, you can play them then. When are you going to play him? We know we'll go on the pre-season. It's a cert, right? So I would expect Mikey Moore to come on for at least 25 minutes, say a quarter, right?
Yep.
In the second half, either on the left or right, or even he's not going to play him in a 10 position. I'd like to see him give him a go there, but he could do because it's Palace, I suppose, just to see. He could do it. He can play anywhere in the midfield.
If we're up by 3 goals, I could certainly see maybe him doing that. But I totally agree with you. I think Mikey Moore is going to get a lot of run out this one. I think Brendan Johnson probably won't play at all. So I probably assume you start with Odegaard, see exactly how he's progressing in the first half. You can always make that change at the half because I think Mikey Moore actually has a full 90 in him if they really wanted to do that. But I do expect him to at least get a half hour like we saw at West Ham as well too. So Drew. Crystal Palace. I like Crystal Palace. I think Crystal Palace has had a pretty solid year. Seriously, I think they're in the FA Cup final, so I think you have to give them some props. But that being said, it's like Oliver Glasner has got. I think they have played a little bit over their head at times this year, and I think you can credit that to the manager. He's actually really galvanized. Oliver Glasner's really galvanized that squad. I like some of their players as well too, man. I'm a big fan of Mateta. That guy's a disruptor. But that being said, man, what are your expectations for Crystal Palace? Yeah, I like Mateta, man.
I think Mateta is one of those players that a couple of seasons from now, everyone, and I'm happy to be mudded. A couple of seasons from now, everyone's going to forget he existed. He's just another Michu, man. He's a flash in the pan. I think he's done nothing in his career to suggest he should be this good. I'm sure his XG this season's probably off the charts, but I don't know. As I say, I'm happy to be mudded. I hope the guy goes on to have a fruitful career. But yeah, I just don't see it. Although, go on.
They lost Michael Olise to Bayern, and it almost seems like they're playing better without him. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
I think I don't know. I think it took them a while to get over the loss of Olise.
Yeah.
Because they did that 9-10 games without a point, without a win. So
that's true.
It took them a while to get over that hump. And let's be fair, everyone waxes lyrical about Eberiche Eze, and it's taken him the better part of a season to actually start showing everybody, or at least start showing me the sort of player he is, because everybody was going on and on about him. And I looked at him at one point this season, and I think he had 2 goals and 4 assists. And this was a decent way in the season. So I know he's upped his game. And there's no doubt he's a talent, and I think everything
It's
should be
not how you
taken.
start, Drew.
Everything should be taken in context. But yeah, they've done really, really well. Lacroix at the back has been better than I thought he was going to be. Solid unit. Glasner's a good coach. He did it out in Germany. He's been around the block. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, my guy Chris Richards has turned a corner of the season as well too.
Yeah. I'm not expecting too much, to be honest with you, because unfortunately, as say this, well, here's the thing, right? I was just about to say that this second string or this backup team have not really shown that they can do it in the league. But then that being said, they got a point away to West Ham, and that was arguably a fully strength West Ham that were they were barely blowing bubbles. And we managed to do all right, and was it but for Jed Spence turning off and Ben Davies, not get tracking across. I mean, I guess, there's an argument that we might have actually walked away with 3 points there. So I don't want to be too harsh on him. But yeah, Crystal Palace are probably, it's Tottenham. It's another kind of cup final for them. So they'll be out to try and put a few past us for sure. And who knows, Eze might be putting himself in the shop window a little bit. I mean, we were sniffing around him last season. I'm sure we'll probably be sniffing around him again this off season. So,
well, we've only been linked with about 120 players so far. So.
Right. And Eze.
We're about halfway through the list. Media going to come up.
Audio asked any minutes for Scarlett, and I think he might be recovering from a knock.
Yep.
I'll send him out alone on the end of the season. He's only 20. I watched him as a 17-year-old. Good finish, and he's going to have a football career with a bit of Spurs. Doubt it.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. Scarlett started the season out on loan, correct? He came back.
Last year he was at Ipswich, didn't get a game.
He was at Oxford this year, right?
Yeah, Oxford. I think he got about 4 in 20 games or something.
And Portsmouth, wasn't it?
Every time he goes away with England, he scores. I mean, he's good. I mean, I watched him play as a 17-year-old. When there's 22 players on the pitch, you get that one player that really stands out. He's like Mikey Moore was in the under-21s at the time. He just really stood out. And then, he scored against Delfsburg, didn't he? A nice cross from Decky left wing cross, and he intercepts the ball where heads it in. And he scored in Kane's last match, didn't he? The 5-1 against Shakhtar Donetsk, that swivel for the 5th goal on the penalty. Yeah. He's a finisher. I'll tell him, people.
It's all right.
Their fans will go, rubbish. Well, you can say that.
Everyone's rubbish.
Kane went to Millwall. We went to Norwich. I think he went to Leicester on loan. Van der Vaart goes, that Harry Kane is crap.
I know. We had the conversation yesterday. Well, yeah, we had the conversation yesterday, didn't we, with Lord Trotter, who proclaimed that Tell was trash, and it's just like everyone's got an opinion, everyone's entitled to it. I mean, obviously, big up Rodney if you're out there. Audio says that we've been linked with Eze, Wharton, and Mitchell from Palace. I would take Wharton in a heartbeat. He gives me Carrick / Yar-ish kind of vibes, just like
he gives me the warm and tinglies.
Yeah, he really does. I really
my
love
man
Wharton.
Take him in a heartbeat. How much is it going to cost you? You could get my man who scored in the Champions League final. I've been going on about Fratesi, right? And he came on and scored in the final, right? Like, you go watch a video of Fratesi. He is an animal up and down.
I just don't know it. Is he Italian, right? I'm not going to get. I'm not. I just don't know how
with a name like Fratesi.
Well, there's always that chance he's Argentinian. You know what I mean? They always throw you a curveball. There's always some double Z's in there every now and again.
But when you're talking about. See, if you don't pay 60 million for a player, Spurs fans go, he's rubbish. And a lot of them haven't watched any of these players. And then they say, they should play all the youngsters. How many of them watch the youngsters play? I watched everyone.
Well, it's funny. They say if you don't pay 60 million, he's rubbish. But then you won't pay 60 million for Tell. And if you do, it's overpriced because he's rubbish. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Damned if you don't.
There's bargains out there.
Great point, Drew.
There aren't these world-class players out there, right? There aren't.
Yeah.
You get little errors. We get 3 or 4 come through, like Messi, Ronaldo, Lewandowski, things like that. You get little clusters, but that's it, right? Kane, yeah. I lost my train of thought.
Well, we're gonna finish it right here because this conversation has swung to Fratese and the transfer market. So why not, man? Why don't we just give the fans what they want? All right, let's talk about expectations. I think we all agree that Crystal Palace is going to be Crystal Palace, and Drew just kind of poured cold water on my liking for Crystal Palace. Even though this, my liking for Crystal Palace has been there forever and a day. There's just something about Crystal Palace that I've always liked. Anyway,
I just don't I don't really like any other team apart from Spurs, like in England. I mean, I like Gillingham because I grew up there, so they're like my kind of hometown team. But my family team has been, and always will be Tottenham, and I just don't pay any attention to anybody else. Can't stand anybody.
So, for obvious reasons, I was always a Fulham supporter because,
Mr. Dempsey.
Right? So, Mr. Dempsey. But that being said, if I had to pick a liking for my other team that I kind of low key follow on the regular, it's Torquay United. I'm a big fan of Torquay.
Hey, come on, Torquay. All right.
Yeah, Torquay United, man. You gotta show some respect for Torquay. But that being said,
I support Spurs, but my other team are Tottenham.
The other team is Tottenham.
All
right.
Non-league Enfield, but they split into 2 teams when the ground was sold off. You got Enfield Town and Enfield, So I always support Enfield because I'm in the borough of Enfield, So
we have about 10 minutes left, and then we're going to call it a morning. But that being said, I realize, Drew, that there's a lot of factors that go into it. Europa League, winning the Europa League, and having the Champions League to negotiate off. Whatever happens with our manager, that also plays a factor into it. But that being said, we're going to have Paratici through the door. We're going to have a new foundation in which we scout. We're going to have a new plan. More often, we're going to have direction. I think having a plan and having direction is probably good for any football club. As to what it is right now, which I can't necessarily put a finger on exactly what we're trying to be. That being said, what is your expectation for the summer transfer window? What is it that you as a fan want to see? Because when I look at the roster right now, I don't think we're necessarily that far off. We're anywhere between 3 to 5 players that's really going to kick this on. And of course that there's an asterisk because I think having Betancourt and Romero stay are going to be absolutely pivotal.
I'm gonna say, hang on, let me just make sure I've got this guy's name right, because I the last boss. Somebody like, and it doesn't have to be exactly this, but there's a guy called Olivier Boscagli, plays for PSV. He's their captain, I think. He's played about 136 games for him. Predominantly a left-sided centre-back, can play left-back, can also play defensive midfield, Champions League experience. Something like that. I think we've got enough young talent that needs to be nurtured. I think we need to start bringing in some players to nurture them. So I think we've got to be a little bit shrewd regardless of what we do, because I think there are some gaps that need filling, and I just don't know, if rumours are to be believed, I don't know how much money is actually flowing. So they may have to be a little clever. Paratici is obviously known to be a little clever. So I would say, rather than actually just, being specific with people or, exact personnel, right, I would just say that we need left-sided centre-back, left-back combo, somebody that's, good at both. I think you're probably looking at replacing Bissouma, unless we, unfortunately, this isn't a guarantee. If you could guarantee that you were going to get the Bissouma that you'd got the last few games for the rest of his contract, then I'd say maybe give him another year. But you don't know if that's going to be a thing. So you're probably looking at a central, defensive midfielder, some like your boy, Johnny Cardoza.
Yep.
And you need I would say probably I've been there and done it winger for all the young wingers to kind of look up to. And then probably if you're going to get rid, I mean, if Richarlison's out the door, then you absolutely need another number 9 that not only is going to be happy to be behind Solanke, that is going to absolutely push Solanke to the point where coaches are going to have to make a decision. And some days Solanke's going to have to sit out because there's a guy chomping at the bit. Whether that's Jonathan David, I'm not sure. Champions League football means it's more likely to be. But yeah, we need to start. As I say, we've got a lot of great young talent. We need to really start getting players in that are going to start pushing the so-called starters and actually really start making other players play out of their skin. You know, if you were happy being a 6 or a 7 and every now and again putting in an 8, I need somebody that wants to come in and be a 9 and absolutely show you that he deserves your place. That's the sort of thing. I want some hunger in the team. Do you know what I mean? I don't want people resting on their laurels. I want to start pushing.
If you players, you need to bring them into a settled team as well, because we've been disjointed. And when we bring young players in, the team's like there's been no cohesion in that team when we've fallen apart. You know.
Yeah.
Go on,
yeah.
Steve.
Adrian. You've mentioned Liam Delap on a few occasions, and I do like Liam Delap because in a relegation campaign for Ipswich, that pressure of being a leader fell on his shoulders in order to score goals, and I think he's actually had a brilliant season this year in the face of adversity. And those are the type of players that I want, guys who can wear the armband. You know,
looks hungry too.
That's exactly right. You talk about Biscagli, he's a captain. Those are the type of players that I want. But I always go back to, you have mentioned on a few occasions the number of wingers we actually have. And one of the things that I point out is the fact that a lot of those guys are left-sided wingers, right? When you talk about Odebear, left wing, Tell's a left winger, Mikey more traditionally is a left winger, Yangmin Hook is a left winger, right? So I mean, if we're going to probably have Sonny back in some context next season as well too. So I always thought that it would be beneficial to this team to bring in put 2 wingers on each side. But from that standpoint of the fact that we have a lot of natural left wingers and there's going to be depth on that side, I always fall back to the point that we need an absolute stud on the right side, somebody that's going to challenge Brendan Johnson. Like, I don't care that Brendan Johnson is our leading scorer, because when you look at who he scored against, it's very uneven. But also, I think that he's gotten soft. I think he's gotten complacent because there's nobody there to actually challenge him for his starting spot. And I do believe that with a young player, you need to have that adversity day in and day out on the training pitch in order to make him better, because it's going to motivate him to actually earn that starting spot. And I always fall back on that. Competition is good for everyone involved. So I would like to see a new right-sided winger. I think it's important to actually give Dom Slinky that challenge as well too, whether that be Jonathan David or Victor Yorkeresh or whoever the case may be, or Liam Delap. I actually think that having a fire lit under Dominic Slinky is going to be good for him as well too. But I fall back on. I don't necessarily think we need another 6, because if, for instance, let's say that both Betancourt and Basuma leave, having a room with Johnny Cardoso, Lucas Bergvall, who has experienced the season, and Archie Gray competing for that spot. I actually like that, because you have 3 young guys that are going to be hungry to win that starting spot. And I actually think all 3 of them are capable of starting at the Premier League week in and week out. But again, all of this is contingent on keeping that back 5 together, because I think that Udogie, Van de Ven, Romero, and Porro are actually, when they're on it, it's one of the best back 5s in England. And I just do not want to see that that back line get disrupted this offseason. I would like to see some depth behind Udogie and Mikey Van de Ven. But that being said, I'm at this position where it's 3 to 5 possibly. That's going to kick on. And I do believe you. I do believe that we will see some movement when it comes to the free transfers, because I think or loans. I think you're actually spot on with that as well too. because I actually think that this team is very capable of getting good players in on loan.
And we may bring Lancashire and Donnelly in. I'd like to see them brought in with more. And I'm missing someone else. Yeah, there's 4 of them academy kids
Keely.
I'd like to be brought in.
Dorrington,
Keely.
No, Vaskovich would be the other one.
Oh, yeah,
wouldn't it?
Vaskovich.
Yeah, he's
But
good.
like with you, you think of this transfer window, right? You go and get Delap, 30 to 40 million. I know Man City got a buyback clause on him, but you go and buy him, they get a percentage if he's sold anywhere. Right? So you get Delap for 30 or 40 million. So you're not spending 62 million on Kuna, even if you think he's slightly better. And Delap, that's sort of shown that he's got a higher ceiling, right? Then you get Cardoso in for 21 mil. You've spent 61 mil. And you're looking for your left centre back. You could do no worse than go to final, nick the captain, David Hansko, I think it's called. So it sounds like it's Hanko. He's left-footed centre back, and he can play left back as well. You might get him because I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure Feyenoord might be in Europe every year anyway, but it might not be the Champions League. I think Ajax were top last time I looked, but that was weeks ago. So I don't know what the Dutch league is. There, it's finished now. Then you got 3 players in. Suddenly you're looking at a different animal. You're looking at a totally different animal, and you still will have a considerable amount of money to go and get another winger if we're going to farm out a lot of these young ones. You know, I think Odebert will stay with the squad because they like him.
I could do you 3 right-hand side or 3 right wingers that would probably at least give Brendan Johnson a run for his money.
Moore can play on both wings, but he's right.
But
how many of them right-footed wingers you've got that play on the left now? They all do it, but he can play on the right. Tell can play on the right as well. You know,
I don't know, man. I think this is going to be a situation where you actually need to bring in somebody that is that already is a potential 15.
Well, you could do that. You would have the money, wouldn't you? If you spent 40 million on Delap, if you spent 40 million getting David Hancock, 80 mil, right? And then you've got Cardoso for 20, it's 100 mil, right? 21 mil, that's 100 mil, but if Richarlison and Basuma and Solomon go 20, 40, you've got more than half the money back there. If Romero's goes, you're in profit, right? And it's a question, would the club then want to use the money for Romero in other areas? Because we've got Dragusin, Danso, or I think should be a vice captain at this club. And then you've got, or Davis, as if he isn't already. Then you've got Davis and VDV, and then you've got Vaskovich, Dorrington and Phillips. I know they're younger, but they're going to have a good look at Vaskovich in the pre-season games to see if you go out alone or whatever. So 3 players. Now, if you get the winger that you want and you've got Delap, I mean, you've got to look for value for money. I mean, do you go for a 60 mil striker? Even Jonathan David would be a cheaper option than Kuna would, or Buemo on a wing, or anyone like that. I mean, people would like, I think Drew mentioned Kirkes yesterday, the fullback.
Yeah.
Good, like the look of him. I like the look of him. We can do this. I mean, we can have. We're never going to have a great transfer window because fans, no matter how much you spend, they'll always want you to spend more. And if you buy players, no one's moaning now we've got Sarr, even though the fan base is split over. No one's moaning we've got you Doggy. They come for as a youngster. Everyone moaned about Decky when he first came and he's rubbish after 2 games. He gets a debut goal against away to Man City when Son squared the ball to him. I mean, no one's moaning about them, but or Bentancur coming in for peanuts, you know. But like now you go on a transfer market and bring someone in, and you know the fans are going to be split no matter whoever we bring in. That's just normal.
I agree. I definitely agree. Well, gentlemen, we are coming up to the end of the show. Down on the bottom of the screen, you see Spurs Die Hard TTID. Make sure you get over there and like and subscribe. Very good content. Gentlemen, Drew, what is the plan this weekend for Spurs Die Hard TTID?
I think I've got the weekend off. I've got a couple of bits that I need to go and do. There's no watch along tomorrow because the Irish Hotspur boys are in England going to the game. I think Adrian has a show tomorrow.
If I'm around, then I'll try and make it. But yeah, the next time everyone's going to see me is
you're both invited.
Friday.
I'll send you the links anyway, whether you can make it or not. Right, I'll send you the links.
All right, cool.
So I'm just setting up and get going because Ian's got family stuff to do. So he would normally, Ian will host the Sunday show at 9:00. I normally host the Tuesday show. I take the short straw because I'm really trying to get the Tuesday show up and going strong, because it is harder when you compete with Champions League football, blah, blah, blah. But then that European football isn't on every week. So I know I'll boost it. I will boost it, definitely. So, and then like Drew hosts Friday, I help him out Friday, throw some banners in, and then he blends them with his ideas and he goes with what he's got, you know? And yeah. By the way, did you like the intro, Steve, or not? Drew doesn't like it. Did you like the intro?
Did I like the intro? I wasn't around for the intro, but if the intro was the one that played at the end, yeah, it's I think it's a pretty decent intro.
Okay. Ian doesn't like it.
I'm extremely fussy and fickle when it comes to stuff like that. So it's on me. It's completely on me. I just want to say just a real quick big up to everybody in the chat as well. Thank you for popping on and saying hello. Audio in a hype, Peter.
Yeah, I mean, is it good as MLS bangers and U.S. men's national team bangers? I don't know.
I also find that to be quite shocking and somewhat offensive, but you know, that's for another time.
Shocking and offensive. What, we can score goals?
Just in a musical, in the realm of music. Like the fact that like the video and stuff is great. I mean, it's a little bit grainy because I don't think you lot have put in a banger for a minute, but yeah. Well, that's for another time as well.
As it's football sport, it should be punchy. Like you get fans sing loud and chant. So I think it should be. I mean, that was done on a metal AI when I put the lyrics in.
We know.
But like, I could try the same lyrics on a rock AI and see if it comes out. Somewhere in between. But look, it's only a minute anyway. So you got a minute.
It's the longest minute of my life. Big up David Clark. Big up David Clark as well.
Well, yeah. So just a reminder, obviously, to like and subscribe to Stateside Footy. But that being said, we have the MLS live stream tonight. The Columbus Crew are at the Philadelphia Union, so that's going on tonight. Tomorrow we are back for the Spurs pre-match build-up. We also have the watch along, and we have the final score as well too. There is a lot going on tomorrow. Derma is in London for the Spurs Crystal Palace match, so I'm sure we're going to get a live feed from Dermatron tomorrow. That's going to be awesome. I want to thank David Clark. I want to thank Artio Artisan, Peter Cahagias. Who else? In a hype. I want to thank the Tottenham Ranger who showed up, Joe Blogs, everybody that tuned in today to listen and participate in the chat, man. I'm very grateful that you guys were able to do that. I'm very grateful for Adrian and Drew for taking time out of their morning. I'm sure you guys had things to do, but you made some room for me, so I'm definitely grateful that you guys were able to do that. Any last words, gentlemen?
Come on, you Spurs.
Can find us, Spurs Diehards. We do have a Facebook group for those that can even be bothered to use that form of social media. I started that in 1919 when the stadium opened. It's got 14,500 members. It's about 3,500 active each month, which isn't bad. So I don't care if the rest of the bots are comments, right? Because
you did hear that right, everybody. He started it in 1919.
2019.
When he was 19 years old.
2019. Slip of a typo. Yeah. Right, and
wow, 1919, man. So you're the guy that invented Wi-Fi and YouTube. Fantastic,
yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I invented the wheel, yeah. So and we have a Facebook page because the videos record out on there as well. But that's only been started like last year rather. So that's got about 300. It's always slow to get a build up on there. But when you've got a page, at least you know they're all Spurs fans. And on the XCOM account for Spurs Diehards, which is under my name, look, that's got 3,200, but that's all verified. They are all Spurs fans. I'll follow back any Spurs fans who follows on that. But unless it's someone who's got loads of followers and loads of support and they're not a fan, then I might add them because I want to get some of them to come across. That's self-interest, right? So, yeah. So we're busy out there, but yeah, it's good. And obviously like YouTube, we're doing okay, but with your support or the support of anyone watching this show on playback, it all helps the algorithm. If you subscribe to Steve and subscribe to us, And obviously, we thank you for your giving us your time in the chat, watching us on playback, things like that. So thanks again.
Make sure everybody smashes a like as well before they leave on the old videos.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, because we have to let the algorithm. Yeah. I'm not exactly sure how that necessarily works, because I don't understand how necessarily computers work. But I do know that if you hit the like button, it's going to put this show in a lot of different places. So that's going to do it for us. Before I go, I'm going to say 2-1 Spurs tomorrow. I think there's going to be some carryover from that win at Bodo. And I think there's going to be some momentum carrying. And I'm going to say 2-1 Spurs. David Clark says 3-1.
I'll go 3-1 as well. Big up, David.
2-0.
2-0.
All right, so I'm looking forward to it.
We all agree that Spurs are going to handle Crystal Palace that loss. So that's going to do it for us.
Business.
Thank you guys again. And congratulations to everyone, every Spurs fan that got to watch that second leg. This is all about you and all about this club, and we deserve this. So dream big, definitely dream big, because you know what, we're gonna do it. That's just all I gotta say. You guys have a great afternoon. Enjoy your Saturday. Enjoy your weekend. I hope you guys eat good food and have a great time, man. So come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on.